In order to come close to realizing the dream of a safe international community, and to banish the specter of wars and conflicts that are taking place now, there is a critical and crucial issue that must be addressed and worked to solve, and it is undoubtedly the energy problem. Humanity, especially in the 20th century and until today, has exhausted most of the non-renewable energy resources. Energy is necessary for life and development, and it helps determine the capabilities of any civilization. We are still primitive to the point that we do not control the energy resources on our planet. We get energy from dead plants in the form of oil and gas and charcoal. In the near future, the extent to which we continue to survive and advance our civilization will depend on our ability to dispense with fossil fuels. If we do not achieve this in the next few years, we will witness tragedies that are difficult to imagine no matter how hard we try, whether in the electricity sector or the transportation sector that depends on fossil fuels by more than 80%. If the electricity is cut off in any city like New York, London, or Paris or Beijing, etc., it will be in real distress and its consequences will be immediate. The subway trains will be paralyzed, the transportation sector will be threatened, and trade will be in danger. People will not be able to use the credit card, as well as the banks will stop spending or depositing zero, etc. And the internet will be confused. Food will start to rot because the refrigerators will stop. And those who live in the towers will have to climb on foot to these high altitudes to reach their homes, which will be without lighting, water, or sewage. As for hot cities such as the Gulf cities, Africa, and California, etc., the air conditioners will be turned off and many will suffocate or suffer from freezing cold. Cities with cold climates will have a bigger problem where there will be no heating. It will also be difficult to move from one city to another and from one state to another with the ease that we enjoy now. Water supply will be cut off to all sectors, and cities will be submerged in sewage after their equipment stops. Epidemics will begin to spread, rats and insects will be expelled, paralyzed hospitals will be unable to perform their role, bakeries, food industry, irrigation machines, etc. will cease to exist. Gangs of the hungry will start looting and killing, and government agencies will lose control, etc. Life will return to the era before the Industrial Revolution, but it will be a sudden setback that humanity will not bear. This black scene is not to export frustration, but to warn of a reality we see with our own eyes but we don't see it with our minds. The rationalization of energy remains necessary and sometimes mandatory if it is generated in dangerous conditions. The confirmed fact is that today we are generating energy in conditions of already dangerous conflicts, although there is no scientific reason for us to continue in this direction. Energy, especially fossil fuels, is currently considered very limited to the extent that it raises conflicts that we see clearly between countries. Therefore, we need a safe, clean, efficient, and sustainable energy source, which will have a profound impact on societies and will even change everything for the better. No other solution. Imagine what we could do if we had cheap and clean energy. But the urgent and most important question is, can we really do that? The world that we are a part of contains huge amounts of energy that takes many forms and shapes, such as wind energy, solar energy, chemical bonding energy for different types of fuels, micronuclear, nuclear fission and fusion energy, large nuclear, and the potential energy in the seas, waves, tides, water currents, tremendous pressure, temperature differences, and the latent heat of the Earth's interior, etc. But when we think of resorting to the use of any kind of energy, we must think about the possibility and how to tame it first. So he succeeded. Also, in the age of the winds, when man thought of harnessing that energy, he invented sails to propel boats and ships in the seas, and invented windmills to obtain mechanical power that was used to grind grain, and now we use it to generate electricity. Likewise in the age of steam, when one of the human thinkers noticed the enormous energy inherent in steam and wanted to use and tame it to serve human society, and it was necessary to have the idea through which to make a machine that can achieve this. With persistence and continuous work, he succeeded in that, and the matter was repeated when man wanted to control the chemical energy latent in oil and gas fuels, as well as when trying to control the nuclear genie, etc. But the question is still urgent. Did we really have cheap energy? Have we possessed an inexhaustible energy capable of meeting the energy needs of the global community so that peace prevails and conflicts and wars cease? Energy, its uses, and the concept of availability. The concept of fundamental forces. Before we talk about the concept of energy and its available uses, we must review what the physics sciences have reached in our time, at the beginning of the 21st century, in terms of defining the concept of fundamental forces in nature, and this matter was compiled by some of them. First, the gravitational forces. It is the force that affects all material bodies, as we are present on the surface of the earth by this force, as well as water collects in rivers and settles in the seas and oceans by the force of gravity. As a result, this gravitational action extends from the smallest particles in nature to the so-called elementary particles. Like the compounds of the nucleus, i.e. protons, neutrons, and other particles, to the largest objects in the universe, i.e. clusters of galaxies. The science that deals with the study of interactions or mutual influences between elementary particles is called microphysics, and on the science that is concerned with interactions on the largest scale, i.e. in the totality of the objects studied, cosmic physics or macrophysics. Secondly, electrical power. These forces affect charged particles only, and they are either repulsive, which leads to the separation of charged particles from each other. If the two interacting particles carry a charge of the same types, or they are gravitational, which leads to the two interacting particles coming close to each other until they come into contact if possible. If the two interacting particles carried charges of two different types. This is because there are two types of charges, i.e. positive and negative states, and Coulomb's law expresses these forces in static electricity, and Maxwell's laws express the mutual actions between bodies. In the event that the charges are in motion, such as the electric current during its course in conductors and electrical wires. Third, the weak nuclear forces. It was discovered for the first time when a nuclear process known as nuclear decay was observed, and the extent of this force is very short. Fourth, strong nuclear forces. This label went through two phases, where it was initially given to the forces acting between the components of the nucleus, i.e. protons and neutrons. And it works to overcome the repulsive force of Coulomb affecting the protons because they are positively charged, and thus work on the cohesion and stability of the nucleus. Other particles called quarks refer to the strong nuclear forces as the forces between these particles.
Do not forget to subscribe to the channel to receive what we hope will be useful. Follow us.